They built everything that you guys are now profiting off of immensely. But don't forget these guys. Just don't forget them.
At an ABA game here at the fairgrounds in Indianapolis,
Correct.
a live bear came out and wrestled with people.
It's not only about these guys waiting for their pension, but it's about waiting for respect, looking at the era in which they played. These guys have been on a journey.
What made it undeniable that the NBA needed the ABA? From South Bend to Evansville and everywhere in between, this is Get In, the show focused on the Hoosier State and the incredible stories happening here today. I'm Nate Spengel, founder of Get Indiana, and I will be your host for today's conversation. GetIndiana.com is your one-stop shop for everything Indiana, from festival and event guides to blog posts covering hidden gems, local businesses, small towns, and more. Check it out and learn something new about the Hoosier State at GetIndiana.com, and don't forget to subscribe to our weekly newsletter right there at the top. My guest today is Michael Husain. He is a documentary filmmaker and media producer. He is the director of The Waiting Game, a 2024 film following an Indianapolis non-for-profit, the Dropping Dimes Foundation, that was formed to help struggling ABA players as the nonprofit negotiates with the NBA to get them to step in and help these basketball legends. We're going to be talking about the growth of the ABA, the origin of the Indiana Pacers, and what happened to these ABA legends after the merger between the ABA and the NBA. I'm really excited, Michael, to have you here. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, so we're, 20 minutes into knowing each other, maybe, and I've already been enlightened about so many things when it comes to professional basketball and filmmaking in the state of Indiana thus far. I'm really excited to unpack how professional basketball really got a foothold here in Indiana and your journey of making The Waiting Game, which is following these ABA legends that are now struggling to pay rent, struggling to provide health care for themselves, like as we're getting into retirement age. This is going to be a really interesting story. So where does this all begin?
It begins with the Dropping Dimes Foundation that you mentioned. I met one of the co-founders, a guy named Scott Tarter, and he started telling me about this organization that he had co-founded with an eye surgeon here named John Abrams. And they were helping ABA players who were struggling. And I'm thinking, how in the world is a professional athlete struggling financially? And he told me this story, and that the ABA, which is where our Indiana Pacers began. So to background, the ABA was a rival league to the NBA from 1967 to 1976, and they were way different than the NBA. They played with a red, white, and blue basketball. They embraced black culture in a way that the NBA didn't. They invented the three-point shot. They embraced the slam dunk, and it actually invented the slam dunk contest.
No way.
If you enjoy the entertainment factor of basketball, player fashion, cheerleaders on the professional level, halftime shows, that's all came out of the ABA. The NBA's origin story is less about the NBA itself than it is about the ABA.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, so the ABA, these teams were the Nuggets, the Pacers, the Nets, Spurs. Like those were the original?
Those are the four teams that in the what's called the merger in 1976 when the two leagues combined. Mm-hmm. Those are the four teams that came in. There were other teams. They were in Salt Lake City. They were in San Diego. They were in Virginia. They were in Miami.
Really? How many teams were there in total? Oh, wow. The original ABA teams, there were 11. I have them here. Yeah. The Pittsburgh Pipers, the Minnesota Muskies, the Indiana Pacers, shout out, the Kentucky Colonels, New Jersey Americans, and the Western Division was them, the New Orleans Buccaneers, the Dallas Chaparrals? Chaparrals?
Yeah.
What the Denver Rockets, the Houston Mavericks, that doesn't sound very good, the Anaheim Amigos, and the Oakland Oaks.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, they were these crazy. And if you are into retro fashion, if you look up some of those old logos and try and find T-shirts and sweatshirts, they're around, but they're really cool old retro logos.
Wow. Okay, and then the original NBA teams. Boston Celtics, New York Knicks, Minneapolis Lakers, who are now the LA Lakers, Philadelphia Warriors, now the Golden State Warriors, Rochester Royals, now the Sacramento Kings, the Fort Wayne Pistons.
That's right.
No way. They're now the Detroit Pistons. Yeah. Syracuse Nationals are now the Philadelphia 76ers, and the Tri-City Blackhawks, now the Atlanta Hawks. That's crazy. Those
Yeah.
are the original NBA and ABA teams. Also, if anyone out there's ever seen Semi-Pro,
Yes.
this is like, that's all about this, right?
exactly
like
right.
And they get around the table and they're like, only 4 of us get to go or whatever. And
Yeah.
Jackie Moon is freaking out. Like, yes, but that was a comedy rendition of this. This has serious implications for these former players.
It does, and it's been funny. Like if follow like the Reddit strings around our film and things, you'll have people talking about, I know this story already. I saw Semi-Pro. So I love those. But it is a story that at the beginning, at least, tries to celebrate the ABA. So there's an age line somewhere.
Yeah.
Let's just say 50 years old, where people who are above 50 remember the ABA.
What year did the merger happen?
76.
Okay, so it's 1976, the ABA and the NBA merge to become the NBA.
Correct.
And so immediately, what happens to those other 7 teams that do not get picked up in the NBA?
Over the course of time, it went from 11 teams, and it might have grown to 13 and then shrunk to 8. The ABA was chronically underfunded. And so franchises would fold and move cities all the time. And we cover that in the film. But so by the end, there were only 7 teams left.
Of the ABA?
Of the ABA.
So 3 were the really ones that got cut.
Yeah. So one went out of business before the legal process could play out, the Virginia Squires. And if I got that right, I hope I did. So there were 2 left, one in St. Louis and the Kentucky Colonels in Louisville. Kentucky got paid $3 million to step out of the way because there was a lawsuit going on and all the teams had to sign off. So the 4 teams were going to the NBA. They were good. Kentucky says, I'll take $3 million and step away. The St. Louis guys, actually, it was 2 brothers, said, we don't want the $3 million. But we will take just a teensy percentage of future television revenues. Now, in 1976, that was like a nickel. It was the part of the reason the ABA was struggling financially is they couldn't get a TV contract. And the NBA's TV contracts were terrible. Like if you were watching the NBA finals on TV, it was on tape delay. Like this wasn't the business that it is now. And so they said, we will take 1/7, there were 7 teams left, of the TV revenue of the 4 teams that are going in, the 4 ABA teams that are going in. So slice upon slice upon slice.
1/7 of their, and how many teams, let's say there's 12 teams.
There were 4 teams going in from the ABA. So the Pacers, Spurs, Nuggets, and Nets.
Okay.
Yeah. So teensy thing. Yeah. And their lawyer put in the phrase in perpetuity. And so they were, instead of $3 million, they were probably looking at what feels like $30 to get out of the way. So the NBA says, yeah, we'll take that deal. And
because they just bet on the fact that this basketball was going to grow in America?
Yes. And little did they know how much it was going to grow. Well, they didn't necessarily see Bird Magic coming in and starting to invigorate the league. They didn't see Michael Jordan coming in. They didn't see the Dream Team happening in 1992 in the Olympics to really spur growth. And then it became not just a little tiny regional game, which is what professional basketball really was.
No,
it became global.
Way.
And so those guys, ultimately, they just got bought out finally, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, got close to $1 billion.
Yeah, over $1 billion. Okay. So the 2 brothers, Ozzie and Daniel Silma,
yes,
they were the owners of the ABA's St. Louis Spirits, who made history's greatest sports deal. So they accepted a share of the NBA's TV revenue. That would be 1/7 of those 4 teams' TV deals.
Yeah.
In perpetuity when the ABA folded in 1976. That's what they say, folded, merged, right? This netted them over $800 million by 2014. And then, and this is also including a $500 million buyout from the NBA to end the perpetual payments.
Yeah.
So I guess you're right, close to $1 billion. That is like the greatest deal.
Yeah, they
so
did nothing. They went out to their mailbox and collected a check.
You think about like Reggie Miller on TV and 1/7 of the Pacers.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
you know, do the math there, but like they were getting checks from Reggie Miller hitting. That's crazy.
Yes.
Those guys, I wonder what they're up to these days.
There's one of the brothers has passed, the other's still around.
Dude, I mean, that is the greatest deal.
Yes.
Turns out betting on somebody else. There we go. Okay, so that gets St. Louis out of the way. And then now Kentucky doesn't have a professional sports team.
No.
Well, I guess they have soccer, but like, you know, think of the biggest sports. They take that $3 million and
Yeah, no, it was a good deal. They the owner, John Y. Brown, took that money and bought into the Buffalo Braves, which was an NBA franchise. They then move somewhere. I forget who I think they became the Clippers.
okay.
So, you know, it worked out for them.
Yeah. Okay, this is crazy. So now those 4 ABA teams get into the NBA, and are the players technically NBA players? Or
Yes.
okay.
So if you came into the NBA, you are an NBA player. If you were one of the many other ABA players who didn't make it into an NBA franchise, you're out here in kind of no man's land. There's no professional place for you.
And like what were people making at this point in 75, 76?
Yeah, it's a great question because it becomes very important in our film. Is that when they started in 1967 or so, the average salary was probably somewhere between $10,000 and $15,000. One of our sports writers that we interview describes it as what a restaurant manager would make.
Okay. Yeah.
And so by the time the two leagues combined in 1976, there were a few players that had inched into 6 figures, but that would be pretty rare. You know, you would be probably in, you know, $70,000, $80,000. So
Okay. Which is at the time pretty. That's significant.
It's not bad money, but it's not $1 million. It's not
Yeah,
$2
yeah.
million. You know,
It's not like generational wealth and you never have to work again ever.
correct.
Okay.
Yes.
And with these players, you think about like each of these rosters carrying 10 to 11 people, maybe 15 at the max. I don't know. But you think of 7 teams becoming 4. That does leave 3 teams worth of players out there that are on the market.
Yes, and there were these teams that had folded in the year prior. There were a lot of really good players that didn't make the transition, or they had played, you know, their 7, 8 years in the ABA, their prime years, and then their knees were getting shot or whatever.
And at this point, were players associations a thing?
They were, and it's a great question and one we try and cover in the film quickly because there's a lot to cover in it. But the ABA did have a players union, and they had a pension plan, but it was a really weak union. They had no leverage. The league wasn't very wealthy, and the players were even less wealthy.
Yeah.
So the NBA players union was led by Oscar Robertson, an indie guy.
Yeah.
And he was really smart and really aggressive about the power of the union should assume. So
Because they're the product, right? Like without them, there's nothing.
exactly. Yeah.
And like technically, yeah, you're right. Without, you know, the league and all this stuff, there's, you know, they have no place to play basketball. But like, I think that's important. And I think that this was, if I'm guessing right, it comes out to be very important.
Well, it does because originally the two leagues were going to combine. The ABA was formed by a bunch of relatively small businessmen who wanted to be NBA owners, but the NBA wouldn't let them in. So they said, well, we'll just create a rival league and we'll create enough energy behind it that you'll have to let us in. And so the original merger was supposed to happen in 1971.
Why? Why did they actually do that and create enough energy around the ABA?
It did.
Was the product better for the
Way
ABA?
better.
As of like what standard? How did you guys find out about that?
There's ways to look at it from a pure business point of view. It expanded the fan base. Because they were playing a different kind of basketball, the kind of basketball that you can turn on your television and see today. Prior to that, let's say 1966, the year before the ABA, very slow, almost exclusively white, you know, methodical. Like people were still shooting set shots in 1966.
What are set shots?
Where you don't jump on your jumper. You
stand there with your feet.
and you push. You know,
Oh, wow.
It's like bad gym class stuff.
Yeah.
So it was not the most exciting game in the world.
And who was the pioneer? Like what person, what player really changed this?
I think a lot of people would look back into that era of basketball when Julius Erving, Dr. J, came in. He was an ABA guy. He changed the game. There had never been a player like him in terms of just his athleticism, his grace. He was just kind of beautiful to watch. And so as Costas, we interviewed Bob Costas in the piece, says, you'd walk into a gym, even if you weren't a fan, within 2 minutes, you'd say, who's that? And it's Dr. J. So he was Jordan before Jordan. So who was, before LeBron.
And when this merger happened, what made it undeniable that the NBA needed the ABA?
They needed Dr. J. They were the NBA wasn't doing so great itself.
Who were the big NBA players at the time in 1976?
1976. The Celtics were down a little bit then. They really didn't. You got John Havlicek. You got.
Okay, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is in there, but like Pete Maravich, Bill Walton.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah, but like I do remember if you see all the highlights of Dr. J, it's just like athleticism and fun and
it is
excitement.
Yeah, so and so he really changed it, but there were a lot of guys around him that it's described in the film, the NBA games at that point were, more like, 65-60. That would be your final score. In the ABA, they were averaging over 100 points a game.
No way.
So they moved. The fast break, the 3-point shot, all those things that kind of make a game fun. Seems like nothing's ever out of reach. That's the ABA. And so the NBA needed an infusion of excitement, and they needed this growing fan base that had come to, it was like a cultural phenomenon. Like people would go to the fairgrounds here to watch the ABA Pacers because it was so much fun. I mean, they had a halftime show where they had a live bear come out and wrestle with people.
No way.
It was crazy.
That is literally a scene from Semi-Pro. That's crazy.
Which they took from reality.
Dewey the Bear.
That happened at the fairgrounds. Here.
That's nuts. At our fairgrounds?
Yeah.
That a live bear at an ABA game here at the fairgrounds in Indianapolis,
Correct.
A live bear came out and wrestled with people.
At halftime.
Father Pat, what's going on there? That's crazy. I mean, that's exciting. And like at the time, this is the 60s or late 60s, early 70s.
Right.
That's exciting. And people had never seen stuff like that before.
Nor since.
Nor since. True that. Okay. So it becomes evident that the production of the ABA, but why weren't they making money? Why weren't they like good business people?
TV contract really is.
That's what they need.
It's the loan thing. Yeah, the money it takes to build a team, pay a team, travel a team, all those things. That's the TV money that really drives it. They had a few regional TV contracts, but they couldn't get a national one. And
did you guys look into why?
A little bit. We basically took it at face value. That was, Costas. From Bob Costas to other local historians, everybody points at TV money as what was lacking.
Yeah. Okay, so the merger happens. What specific people are you following?
When I met Scott Tarter, one of the co-founders of Dropping Dimes, and he said, look, we've been trying to get the NBA to step in and help these guys because post-1976, they all thought, out of the legal paperwork that brought the two leagues together, they thought they had a pension. They thought that health care, basic retirement stuff that anybody would expect, especially if you help build a league. And then that league became the baseline for incredible value growth with the NBA, right? So there's no denying that baseline. And so he said, we've been negotiating with the NBA to try and get these guys some money for, at that point, about 13 months. And he said, in about 6 weeks, I think we're going to get the win. I think we're going to get them some money, which would have been the All-Star break of 2022. And so he agreed to let us follow him during that last 6 weeks. And I thought it would be a short film. I thought it'd be a 10-minute film, and it would be a feel good. And so we followed. February comes and goes. No announcement from the NBA. A month later, it's supposed to happen. It's supposed to be just some legal T's. And like,
how many people are we talking about taking care of?
At that point, 140.
140 people who were players in the ABA who had pensions and all of the retirement, but they did not become NBA players.
Correct. So They played at least 3 years, which is what would qualify you for an ABA pension or an NBA pension. And they did not go into the NBA. That's correct.
So there's 140 of them. And this is, his name's Scott?
Scott.
Scott is Indianapolis-based?
Mm-hmm.
So Scott, how does he end up being the advocate for these people?
Because he and Dr. John Abrams started this organization just to help them financially.
Well, how did they even hear about them in the first place?
Well, Scott grew up an ABA fan on the East Side, and used to go to the games with his dad, and it was a very
To watch the Bears wrestle?
yes, it's a core memory for him. I don't know if he saw that game, and John had been a ball boy for the Pacers and has been the Pacers' eye doctor for like 35 years. So they met. What ultimately was the catalyst was they met Mel Daniels, who used to play for the Pacers and then became a scout and an assistant coach for the Pacers and is a legend, and he's in the Hall of Fame. And so Mel, who was a very forceful personality, if you ever met him, 6'10", strong as an ox, he was a force, and so he was very, very firm that these guys are struggling. I'm traveling around the country. I'm seeing them and meeting them. These are my brothers from the ABA, and nobody's doing anything for them. This is wrong. And so that's really kind of what got John and Scott together to actually try and do something. And so they founded Dropping Dimes and were helping guys. They had been quietly helping guys. First guy that came to the media's attention through the Indy Star and the writer Dana Benbow there was a guy named Charlie Jordan who played for the Pacers. All he was asking for help for was to get a new suit to go to church. He felt underdressed and he couldn't afford a new suit. So Dropping Dimes got together and got Charlie a new suit.
And what kind of jobs or careers did they have after their time in the NBA?
They're all over the place.
The ABA?
So, Jimmy Jones, who was a 6-time ABA All-Star, who we met and interviewed, he lives out in Las Vegas now. He's driving an Uber now, right? He's still trying to make.
A former ABA professional basketball player now drives Uber.
In Las Vegas, he's 77 years old. And
I might have been in one of his rides before.
Yes, absolutely. He is a
TBD
great guy.
if we remember it.
But he worked in the school system there. He sold cars. They all took jobs here and there. Ralph Simpson, who lives in Denver, who is also had some health struggles, he very seriously considered not getting heart surgery because of the bills. Dropping Dimes ultimately helped him. He was a coach for a small college for a little while. He pastored a church. So their careers have been all over the place.
Yeah.
So anyway, Scott is also an M&A lawyer. So exactly, mergers and acquisitions. So he was curious and started looking into the documentation because every guy that they were helping would come in and say, the paperwork is there. It says in the paperwork we have a pension. How come we don't have our pension? It's basically it. And so Scott starts looking at the documentation, and initially he's looking, it does sort of seem like it says that. He winds up going through a process of trying to sort of figure out how does the NBA not understand its legal obligations here. And it's a complex story.
It seems like they remembered the 1/7 of the TV contract. They didn't skip over that detail.
No, but I don't want to give away too much of the film, but we follow Scott looking through that documentation, coming to a conclusion that is it's a little tough to swallow, and then also trying to sort of say to the NBA, look, beyond whatever the legal complications might be here, these are your legends. These are the pioneers of the game. They built everything that you guys are now profiting off of immensely, and nobody cares if you're profiting off it immensely. It's great that players get paid what they get paid. It's great that owners are billionaires. It's great that corporate partners are doing really well. Yeah, fantastic. But don't forget these guys. Just don't forget them.
Yeah, and it's I don't know what a pension looked like in but it's not like we're talking insane money. These guys,
$400 a month for each year of service. So if you, that's what Dropping Dimes was asking.
$400 a month for every. So let's say, how long was the ABA league?
9 years.
Okay, so are any of these 140 players 9-year players?
Yeah, Freddie Lewis, who played for the Pacers, is one of those guys.
So 400 times 9. He's asking for $3,600 a month times 12. How old is Freddie Lewis today?
He's got to be close to 80.
Okay, he's 80. Let's say the average life expectancy is 87.
Exactly.
So he's asking for $43,000 a year for the next 7 years.
Mm-hmm. That's it. Yeah, and thankfully Freddie's still with us. But
yeah, look, yeah, right. Obviously, you just like if you're averaging, that's $302,000 over the next 7+ years. I mean, if it's longer than you're under $500K, but it's spread over a long period of time.
And
probably back pay too, because you should have been able to pull on their pension.
Yeah, but they won't. They weren't even talking back pay.
No way.
No, they were just talking like start it now. And
for $3,600 a month.
Yeah. So and some guys played just 3 years, right? So I mean, the total package of what they were asking for the NBA to help with was $35 million. Now, in terms of scope, and that's over the course of forever, right? That covers that actuarial table that you just mentioned. Nobody was stepping in and saying, "Yeah, we can afford that." Because now, if you had to give you some scope, I think, and I could be wrong here, that the annual fines that the NBA collects every year just for bad behavior is well over $35 million. And much of that money is designated for charity. And so, the NBA itself, each franchise is worth between $3 and $10 million times 30 franchises, $1 billion.
Yeah, billion. Yes.
And so times 30 franchises, you can see just how incredibly large the NBA is.
Yes.
And that's wonderful. No problem with it.
I wonder though if by like admitting to this, though, that does open the door to like a bigger thing. Like you have to have like a settlement, like that's what it would have to be.
Well, and I think that's a lot of what the negotiations wound up becoming is that, Scott's a lawyer. He winds up talking to NBA folks that are also, lawyers or risk assessors of some sort. And there's, somewhere along the line, there's some nervousness that this is going to open other doors that the NBA doesn't want to open. And perhaps at your most risk-averse point of view is that could it put the NBA's own pension now in jeopardy if you sort of open it up and include these guys? So what ultimately happened was there were some not
is this going to give away the end of the film?
In some ways, yes, but some ways, no.
Okay, cool. Because we want to have a reason for us to get out and or like go to watch this.
Yeah. So the NBA did come up after a very, very long battle, which we follow, a package of about $25 million. So whittled away the $35 million to $25 million. And then we excluded some guys.
Some guys get excluded?
They excluded. So instead of $400 a month per year of service, it's $319 per year of service.
It seems like just a bad PR move.
Sure does.
But wow. And what will blow that when the final conclusion and like the end of the movie comes out? What will blow people's mind? Like, what will people feel like after watching this?
You feel a little frustrated because these guys were and are the legends of the game, right? And they're dying, right? And so, Dana in one of her articles with the Indy Star, quotes a guy named Frank Card during these negotiations and saying, it feels like the NBA is just waiting for us to die, and then the problem goes away. It feels like they're playing the actuarial table, and that's really kind of one aspect of what the title, The Waiting Game, is about. It's not only about these guys waiting for their pension, but it's about waiting for respect, and it's about the vast majority of these guys were black, and so. When you start then looking at the era in which they played, the waiting for full rights recognition. These guys have been on a journey.
Did you sit through uncomfortable conversations or like hard conversations?
Yes.
Did any of those stick out to you that changed you and maybe the way you perceive how the ABA was treated or how the NBA has grown or anything like that?
I think the hardest ones were with the guys who were struggling. Like
give us an example of someone who's not in a good. Like obviously you talked about a new suit for church, but
there are a couple of guys who have passed, and one of them is very meaningful. He passes from throat cancer in Las Vegas, and he's sort of a catalyst for like how things really got into the public knowledge.
Yeah.
But Ralph Simpson, who lives in Denver.
And you fly out to Denver and have this conversation with Ralph?
Yeah. So we went out and met with Jimmy Jones in Las Vegas. And Jimmy is just a positive energy guy. And so while clearly he's struggling driving his Uber, and he's got, a little bit of edge to him about like, hey, it feels like you took my money. Ralph is a kind of a quiet, humble guy, and he's the guy who pastored a church for a while. And, he talks about, look, when you're a championship athlete, everything is, self-actualization, right? It's how hard you work and what you're able to achieve. And you're very much a believer in yourself and what you can achieve. And so when you get to this stage of life and you are afraid to have heart surgery because you can't afford it, it's an incredible hit to your pride.
Yeah.
And so that these guys are having to put pride and aside and ask for help, really, really hard for anybody to ask for help, but maybe extraordinarily hard for somebody who came up like that.
What would your pitch be for people, and how can they check out The Waiting Game?
So The Waiting Game is an independent film. So I've done work for ESPN's 30 for 30 or other.
Which 30 for 30 did you work on?
It's actually a little bit of an ABA story. It's called Slick, Nancy, and the Telethon. It's a film about in 1977, so a year after the merger. The teams that went into the NBA, the Pacers, Spurs, Nuggets, and Nets, they all had to pay like $3 million to get into the NBA. And then they didn't get television money for several years. There were a number of sort of things attached to that deal they sort of hurt ABA franchises that were coming into the NBA.
You really like ABA and NBA. That's kind of like your forte.
Yeah, well, it's turned into that, but it's just because, these stories are incredible.
This is the Save the Pacers telethon.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Oh, I've heard about this thing.
So in 1977, the Pacers were essentially out of money. They'd paid $3 million to go in. They didn't have enough to make payroll past 2 weeks. And so Nancy Leonard and Slick Leonard kind of ran the team. Slick was technically the general manager as well as the coach, but Nancy did all the work. And so Nancy her title was assistant general manager, but you could say she was the first female general manager in professional sports.
This is a staple. Indiana has had female executives in sports for a long time.
Yes, they
have. So this is Nancy Leonard?
Yeah, so Nancy comes up with the idea like, I don't know what we're going to do, but because we need to get to October when ticket sales actually happen for our product in basketball.
Yeah.
So we got to get from July to October, and we got no money. The banks are tapped out. They're not going to give them any more money, no more loans. So they decided, let's have a telethon. Let's see if people will support us. And so for 16 hours on what used to be Channel 4, the independent station here, they had jugglers come out. They had athletes manning the phones. They had kids riding around, bringing in their piggy banks, dropping money.
No way.
And people were buying season tickets in advance. And so after like 16 hours, literally 10 minutes before they're supposed to go off the air, they hit the magic number that they needed to hit and saved the Pacers. And because they did, otherwise the Pacers would have left town. And if the Pacers left town in 1977, the Colts probably don't come.
What year did the Colts come?
81-ish.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, okay, so I'm reading the Save the Pacers telethon began on the night of July 3rd, 1977. And on July 4th, 10 minutes before it was set to conclude, it was announced that team officials had reached the 8,000 ticket goal. In part because of the telethon, the Pacers' average attendance jumped from 7,615 people during the 76-77 season to 10,982 during the 77-78 season. Wow.
Yeah. No, and that's it's a testament to how people will help other people here in Indiana. And but the idea now of a telethon to help a professional sports franchise seems crazy.
Do you think that's why there's such like loyalty and legacy and like the history of these places
for older fans?
Yeah.
Yes.
There's probably plenty of kids out there that remember taking their piggy bank to try to, buy season tickets to the Pacers.
Yeah.
To save their team.
Yeah, they were just bringing in money. It's just like they knew the team needed help, so let me help.
That's crazy.
So anyway,
that was a cool one to do. That
Yeah.
was So what was it called? Slick Nancy.
Slick Nancy and the Telethon.
Slick Nancy and the Telethon. That was season. What's that? What season of
2015, 2016, something like that.
Season 7, episode 4 of 30 for 30 Shorts. Come
Okay.
on, that's awesome.
Yeah. So
Very cool.
So anyway, I'd done a lot of that sort of work. You were asking about where to see the film.
And that's all like uplifting, like enlightening, like positive.
Yes, I mean that one is. It used to be, and I did a lot of different work with ESPN or A&E or lots of the sort of cable folks. But this is an independent film, so it doesn't have that backing behind it.
Yeah.
And so it's then it and the universe has changed in terms of you're no longer watching cable very much. You're streaming, and so streamers prior to the pandemic were very aggressive about being able to put on lots and lots of content. Let's just fill this all up and give you the massive amount of choice. Since the pandemic, the entire film industry has contracted, and streamers are extremely, extremely conservative at this point. The documentaries that you're going to see on a streaming service basically fall into 2 or 3 categories. They're star-driven, so it's a musician or an actor or an athlete, a Steph Curry, or a Michael Jordan is involved in the piece. So it's easily promotable. Or it's a crime story, or it's something just kind of lurid, a cult or something like that. That's about it, right? Because it's very easy to promote those things. So independent films, ones that take on subjects that might make you a little uncomfortable, like your favorite game's business model not supporting its legends. Those are hard. It's harder to find a home for those. And so the film we've self-distributed through community screenings. We've done tons of community screenings around the country in ABA cities, and we've shown it around here several times. But you can find it on our website, the waitinggamemovie.com. It's there for you can watch it there. Or what we're deciding to do, we being my brother and I, is that we're just going to start our own streaming service. There's not a home for films like this. And I'm on the board at Heartland Film Festival, so I see, and I've gone to lots of film festivals with this and other films, that there are lots and lots of really, really good films that people ought to see that are chronically under distributed. So we're going to make sure that those films that didn't find a home are going to have a home. And so it's called The Reelist, REELIST. The Reelist Indie Film Club. It's reelist.stream is the URL. And we launch February 1st. And it is essentially a Film of the Month club. So we'll offer 2 films per month, but we are going to, it's only 24 films a year. Each one is going to be an event. So you're going to meet the filmmakers. There's going to be a live Q&A with each film. It'll be recorded, so if you miss it, you can go back and watch it. Behind the scenes content, deleted scenes, lots of ways to interact with filmmakers as artists. So if you're the type of person who likes independent things, likes you go to an art fair, you like to meet the photographer or the painter, you will drive an extra mile to buy local.
Yeah.
You're probably our kind of person.
Yeah.
And so if you want to support independent film, this will be a place to do so, and it'll be a lot of fun. So our 2 promises to people is, you're going to pay a subscription fee. It's $15 a month. In that, we're going to deliver you 2 really good films and an experience around it, so you meet the filmmaker and we celebrate the filmmaker. Second thing is we want to make sure filmmakers get paid. I know a lot of film folks who are leaving the business because it's so hard to make it these days. And so we're going to pay filmmakers to be on the platform first and foremost. They don't have to worry about a per-click thing where they don't make any money. And then secondly, we want the audience, our subscriber base, to be active. We don't want you to be passive. We want you to be, this is streaming with a purpose. And so we want you to vote on the 3 best films you saw every quarter. And if you do, then we're going to pay filmmakers. We're going to double the money we paid them to be on the platform if they're the Audience Choice Award winner. If they're come in second place, we'll match it, and even in third place, we're going to give them a meaningful amount of money. So the idea is a virtuous circle. Like, you subscribe to get great films. You get great films. A lot of your subscription money goes back to Filmmaker so they can make the next film.
I love that. How long have you been thinking about doing this?
We're going to launch, and we've been developing it for about 10 months.
Wow.
So,
I do feel the more people in the film industry I talk to is hard. Like,
super.
there is a select amount of like make it to the top and like build these, Hollywood films or whatever. Yeah. But I talked to the guys at Pegasus, and it's hard.
Yes.
Like getting to, because the business model of it, like you basically have to raise investors to like go out and build this film and then sell it to a like studio or something.
Well, on feature films like what Pegasus is doing, yes. But in documentary world, there's a couple of different ways that you can do it. So for The Waiting Game, for instance, I self-financed it. Remember, I thought it was a short. I thought, I can afford to shoot for a few weeks. And
did you just like get into it and you're like, oh my gosh, like we have to keep going?
Yes. So that's where, artists, and I would consider myself at heart an artist. That's where artists are stupid. And so
passion.
It is passion.
Yeah.
But any business person
like,
would look at it and say, what are you doing?
Yeah, and that's hard. I think that when you have a vision and you start to get in there and you're genuinely curious, like you're overturning these stones and you're like, well, we can't tell a shitty story. We got to go all the way to the end.
And these guys have been shit on for a long time, and they're not getting their due. So unless we call attention to this, they're not going to.
How do most documentary filmmakers survive?
Well, hopefully, the old model used to be that you could get yourself a distribution deal. You could stream it, and then there were some ancillary things. You could try and get it shown on airplanes or on military bases, or back in the day there were DVD sales and things like that. Many of those things are gone now. So, the other way you can finance. So the film I did prior to The Waiting Game, I worked with a partner and Lisa Hall, and she and we fundraised. And so you went to foundations, you went to high net worth individuals, that sort of thing, who came together to, give us our basic budget, and then we were able to make it. So, but even that, there's not really profit in that. That's just, this is what it takes to make this.
Yeah. Wow. Hard business. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's passion driven for sure.
Yeah. Where can people stream it right now? Because obviously February is when... So the Reelist drops.
The Reelist comes, and The Waiting Game will be the flagship film. It'll be the first film.
Heck yeah.
And then we've got other
films. So we cannot
up.
Watch it right now.
You can. Where you can watch it now is at thewaitinggamemovie.com. And there's a link there. It's $10 to watch it. Yeah. Please help us.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna live react. We're gonna live watch the trailer right now.
Oh yeah. Go.
So I want to feel it of why we need to go and check this out.
All right.
The ABA was like a fraternity, and almost like a secret fraternity. Both ridiculous and sublime. And it was underrated. We knew that the larger basketball world did not fully appreciate how good this was.
They were slam dunking the three-point shot. That was all the ABA.
Today's NBA game is 100% an iteration of what the ABA players started in 1967.
You're talking about a multi-billion-dollar enterprise. Players who got screwed, and I don't think that is a wrong that'll ever be righted.
It's like you cheated people out of their money. I mean, how else can you say it?
He's just the beginning. ABA players lying under bridges, sleeping, homeless.
Most of the players at the time were showing me redacted pages what exactly happened in 1976 when the two leagues combined.
We're finding out things that we weren't even aware of.
It was really a biblical story of David versus Goliath. I mean, we were three guys that took on the billion-dollar NBA industry.
There are these former players out there who set the table at which you have people today making $30 and $40 million a year. What are we going to do for them? Because this is bigger than basketball. What are you going to do?
Wow. That's intense.
It is intense. I mean, it's amazing story. You know, Costas got his start calling ABA games for the Spirits of St. Louis, those Silna brothers. But you know, it was such a fun thing, such an influential thing in the long term. Nobody knew it then. And then for them to be just left out of this, just forgotten, ridiculous.
I'm very intrigued of how, like, following along this journey, and of Scott, like taking on the NBA. That's crazy.
A lot of personal sacrifice for him.
Yeah.
Like he really becomes the protagonist in our story, because you're watching this guy who really out of nothing more than love of the game, right? He went to the games with his dad and just enjoyed the ABA so much in growing up on the East Side. He grew up poor on the East Side. His dad worked at Ford. His journey and you know, and Dropping Dimes was there too as an organization. We focused more on Scott because he was the lawyer. And this is a business, legal, ethics kind of story.
Yeah.
He's kind of the hero.
What's the key to making a great documentary? What does it take from a creator and an artist perspective?
A few things. You need, you know, a lot of times you'll hear like that's a great story that's happening, but you know, it's sort of how do you then package it for an audience, right? An audience in just like a feature film needs conflict, right? So you need some struggle that is happening. You need somebody navigating that struggle. The struggle is as a filmmaker is always who can we identify with? Who can we relate with? Early on, I really thought it was going to be a player. You know, that seems like the most logical thing. And what we realized was that the player's struggle is they're the victim, but the active member here, the active guy who's trying to drive some change is Scott, representing Dropping Dimes.
Do you have to have fluid perspective of, like, you have a vision for it, but then you're willing to be fluid in it, like it can take on any aspect?
Yes. You know, we figured out a lot as we were going here. So sometimes it's a straight historical doc. You're going to follow the Slick Nancy and the Telethon thing. That was done, a complete story. We kind of knew what it was. Nancy became the driving force in it. In this piece, it was a bit of a follow doc. So we're seeing this thing unfold as it unfolds, and we didn't quite know which way it was going to go. And so we learned things along the way. And even after the NBA did come through with some money, we went out and interviewed CJ McCollum, who was the head of the current NBA, not the retired guys, the current NBA Players Association. And, you know, what CJ talked about was that he had learned of the story through one of Dana's articles, basically. And it's within the film, you'll understand it completely. But it's when he learned of it, Dropping Dimes had been negotiating with the NBA league office for maybe 18 months. CJ hears about it basically via his Twitter feed. And it's like, whoa, we got to do something here. Like the right response. Yeah. And once he does, it's a matter of weeks before something happens. But, you know, we didn't know that. We didn't understand how this had happened.
You didn't know that was going to hit his Twitter feed too. Like,
didn't know, and didn't even know he had made those calls. Those were all behind the scenes. So, you know, we learned that. It changed our story.
And Indy star Dana ends up being like the person who first uncovers this to get things moving. Well,
Yeah.
it's like, obviously Dropping Dimes is a thing, but like first brings it into the public eye.
So you got this good work happening by a small not-for-profit. They're not getting much attention. Dana starts covering it. The Indy Star is also part of the Gannett system, so some of her stories go national. So she's the amplifier. And once it becomes amplified to the point where it's a problem for the NBA, or, you know, they start talking with Dropping Dimes. Yeah, let's work together, but it's a slow walk. Then that amplification hits again, and, you know, it bursts, you know, the bubble that surrounds the head of the players union.
That's
and
crazy.
he says, yeah, these are our brothers. Let's try and help them.
Yeah.
So like, all these things unfold, and you don't know that they're going to unfold. The night that the announcement was supposed to happen, we were filming with the team from Dropping Dimes, and it seemed like it was going to blow up again. Like it's a significant scene within the film that we're watching them in this little microcosm being told to wait again and again and again. Like they just, it's amazing how many times it repeats itself.
I'm excited. You're gonna get my $10. I'm gonna watch this. It seems like a great time, and I'm excited also the work you're doing on the supporting independent filmmakers. I think that that is a piece where the art is, maybe a little bit more of the fun side, right? Mm-hmm. Creating that is like, you're an artist, and then figuring out the business side of how to be able to continue to fund those can be challenging.
Yeah.
Any other final words on The Waiting Game and why people should go check it out?
I think you'll see a lot of your heroes, and people who really were super influential. Maybe if you're younger, you'll see people who influenced the players you watch now.
Yeah.
And you need to think about like guys like Steph Curry, don't exist. He's a 3-point legend, right? Doesn't exist without the ABA. The ABA, like another small thing the ABA did is like they would take guys right out of high school, more or less. Like they didn't have the whole hardship rule. And there's a famous Supreme Court case that an ABA guy actually went and won at the Supreme Court to create the ability to leave college and go earn your money. And so guys who came right out of high school, LeBron James, Kobe Bryant,
that came from the ABA.
That rule came out of the ABA. And so that's 4 extra years of income these guys got because of the ABA, right? So, it's like so many of these things came out of the ABA. Free agency essentially came out of the ABA. So the way that guys negotiate money now, free agency, that was Oscar Robertson saying, we want to be able to leave our contracts at some point, and that in the way he leveraged that was saying, if you don't do that, we'll just go over to the ABA. Essentially, that's what was happening.
Incredible. I'm excited to check it out. I think there's a lot to learn about that. And obviously, if you're a Pacers fan, this is going to be great.
Oh, yeah.
Amazing. Well, we've come to the part of the show where we talk all things Indiana. This question is brought to you by our friends at JC Hart. They're a leader in creating enjoyable living experiences at apartment communities all across Indiana and beyond. Check them out at homeisjchart.com. My question for you, Michael, why do you call Indiana home?
I grew up in Terre Haute. It is...
Okay, north, south, or West Vigo?
West Vigo, baby.
Go Vikings.
Yes,
come on
nice.
now.
How did you know? Very good.
I'm the mascot guy. Come on. All right, fun. Grew up in Terre Haute.
That's where my soul is. My wife's from Chicago. She makes fun of me for being from Terre Haute. I still love it. So I definitely left for a while and was able to grow professionally. But you follow your heart, which I do a lot in my work. My heart's here.
Why did you come back?
Family is very central in my life, and I still had a lot of family here, and I had a lot of friends. I went to IU, so we were thinking about starting a family ourselves, my wife and I, and it was like, this is a place where I would feel safe and feel like they could grow in a community that would embrace them.
Where was the moment in your life you knew you were going to get into film?
I don't know if I knew I was going to get into film. I guess I thought I wanted to go into broadcast journalism. I thought I wanted to be in news. I was the yearbook photographer in school. I was always kind of interested in kind of 3 things, words, pictures, and music. Those were the things that I loved. I didn't exactly know how they'd all come together. And then I kind of figured out, I guess, probably through failure, is I did go into, I studied broadcast journalism at IU, and I went into news, and within months, absolutely hated it. The stories were short. I thought it was not as noble as I thought it might be. Like, I do not like how journalists are characterized as sort of an evil media thing. Perhaps at the billionaire level, that's true, but the boots on the ground that virtually everybody I have ever met in news or otherwise that are journalists, they care about the truth. They care about it. They have an honor about it. And so anyway, I didn't like it, and it didn't fit me. And so I went on a little bit of a journey to figure out how to do longer form stuff, and that led me to documentary work and film work. But so I don't know if it was a moment as much as it was a journey.
Did you grow up a basketball fan?
I did.
Who was your favorite basketball player?
I did love Dr. J. I really did. With the Pacers at that point, they were so fun to watch, but we lived in Terre Haute, so it was like a really fuzzy signal that you would get on Channel 4 to try and watch them. I loved Darnell Hillman and Roger Brown from those ABA Pacers. I was very young at that point. And then as the NBA grew, I then became, probably my first basketball hero was Larry Bird, because I was in Terre Haute when he was playing in college.
Yes, sir.
And so we went to games all the time.
Was that sick?
It was awesome. And then he became, his senior year, he was a physical ed major. He had to have like some teaching experience to graduate. He came to my high school, and he was like an assistant coach on the baseball team. And I was part of the student newspaper. I got to interview him for the student newspaper.
No way.
I was in the middle school at that point. So our school newspaper, the Trojan Torch, we had the exclusive, because if you were alive at the time, Bird was really shy at that point, and so he had made it all the way through his senior year, where they went to the national championship game. So he wouldn't talk to the press. So New York Times couldn't get an interview with him. But right there at the Trojan Torch, we nailed him.
How did that end up? The middle school? You were like in middle school?
Yes.
And you nail it. That's sick. I mean, and talk about a moment that knew you wanted to get into media. Like,
yeah, right.
Getting the exclusive with Larry Bird for the Trojan Torch, baby. Oh, incredible. All right, Michael, we've come to the final 3 questions of the show. So we get to talk all things Indiana. You traveled the country putting the waiting game together.
Yeah.
If you could shout it from the rooftops and tell the entire United States of America, what's something the world needs to know about Indiana?
You will be stunned by the backbone of people in Indiana. Very easy to overlook them. They don't, in general Hoosiers, I don't think, beat their chest. Which is, if you're an East Coaster, you'll recognize that sort of energy out of New York or Philly, and it's fun. I enjoy those places. But if you come to Indiana, there is a quiet strength and certainty that people live their lives by.
Yeah, I love that. That's so true. I could not say that any better. That's great. Next, this is where you get to shed some light on a place or a thing that more people need to know about. What is a hidden gem in Indiana?
A little bit biased because I'm on the board of the Heartland Film Festival, which supports independent filmmakers, and I'm a film guy. But Heartland is a relatively well-known thing here, and it's been around for 35 years. Not a lot of festivals are like that. But they got so many independent short films coming in the door that in 2018 they started Indie Shorts. It's a separate film festival that runs for 5 days in the summertime, in July usually. It has become, in, 5, 6 years, 7 years? Math's not my strong suit.
We don't do public math on the pod. It's okay.
It has become one of the top short film festivals in the world. It is constantly called one of the top 25 film festivals, coolest film festivals in the world. But it is, if you win your category, if you win the award for best short film or best short documentary, you're Oscar qualified. You can, foreign films can be qualified for the British Academy Awards, BAFTA. It's extremely high profile. We've had Oscar winners coming out of this festival, qualified out of this festival, that have gone on to win the award.
No way.
Yeah. I mean, it is an amazing festival. It's a place where you can see films that, and shorts are sort of classically under distributed as well. So these short films are really, really cool. And Indie Shorts is one of the best places in the world to catch them.
That's amazing. I love that. Finally, you get to share the love and talk to us about someone else who's making a big impact. Who's a Hoosier we need to keep on our radar? Someone who's doing big things. I'm gonna
go back to the roots. I'm going back to Terre Haute. The mayor of Terre Haute is a guy named Brandon Sackbun. He's I don't even think he's 30 years old.
29.
Yet. There you go.
Previous guest of the pod. We'll link it down in the show. He is phenomenal. Army veteran, IU graduate, and like one of the youngest mayors out of. I mean, Terre Haute's almost like over 40,000 people, isn't it?
Well, we got well over
58. 58,000. Holy cow.
And hopefully we're going the right direction. We're growing.
Yeah, he's a good dude.
He's super impressive. And I also learned recently that he's also was in the same fraternity I was at IU, about 100 years apart.
Just 100. There we go. I love that. Yeah, Mayor Sackman is awesome. I definitely recommend going and checking out that episode. We do a little bit on the history of Terre Haute. We talk into what's coming next down the pipeline, and just like people will be excited about living out there. And he has a good vision for what's coming down the pipe for Vigo County. So I love it. Michael, it's been a pleasure getting to learn all about The Waiting Game. I'm really excited to check this out and learn about this journey fighting the NBA on behalf of the ABA players and their retirements that are not getting any younger. I think that it's going to be an awesome journey, and I'm excited to check it out. Thank you for all the work that you're doing there and the work to support independent filmmakers across the country. I'm excited. The Reelist comes out in February.
Yes.
So if you are a film junkie and you're looking to get 24 independent films a year to a month, that's a great, I mean, what, for $15? That's a great deal.
$15 a month. Well, because they're going to be really fun. You're going to get to be able to ask the filmmakers questions. It's similar to the film festival experience. It's just virtual.
I love it, man. Hey, keep up the good work, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you so much for having me.
This show is made possible by our friends up at Sweetwater. Whether you're looking to start a podcast or take your content to the next level, click the link in the description to see all my gear recommendations at Sweetwater. If you want a behind-the-scenes look at everything we're doing across the state, make sure you follow me on Instagram and TikTok at Nate Spangle. Thank you so much for listening and being a part of what makes the Hoosier State great. We'll see you next time here on Get In.